Hi, everybody. Oh, we haven't started yet. Hi. Okay, we're about to start in a few minutes. I am very happy to see you here. I feel like it's a Friday, but maybe because it's a bank holiday here in the UK tomorrow. I'm excited to have Gabriele Hackworthy join us in a few seconds. I'm sure she's joining as we speak. And we thought we would keep it light and give you something sort of fun to talk about, mainly about where fashion and beauty is heading post-COVID. I think a lot of us have asked to see what we can do to sort of change things up a little bit and whether or not we're going to go back to our old norms or not. So, oh, there she is. I'm going to connect to her now. I think she's joining.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So nice to see you. How are you doing in lockdown?
We're just, taking every day as it comes and just trying to stay in the moment and not get too kind of frustrated by everything and make the most of this time at home. Trying to enjoy it, as much as we can. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like it's like summertime and I should be, outside enjoying everything and just having, I'm in my house, which is nice. I'm no complaints. It's been a good time. I've had, every meal with my family and, trying to work and strive ahead for MZ Skin, which has been exciting. Yeah. And you too, you're embarking on a new chapter, just before COVID. So, how has that changed for you?
I launched my sort of freelance consultancy career just as this all started taking off. So it's been good. I'm actually working, oddly enough. One of the few people I know that are still working at the moment. So it's good. It's actually been helpful to have a reason to get up in the morning and have a project to do and have something creative to put your mind to. So I've been really grateful for the work that I've been doing.
What are you doing now? So what's your consultancy? Tell us what you did do and now what you've transitioned to.
Gosh, I've done so many things. I started, my career, I studied fashion design and then I went into styling and then I became a fashion director for many years for various publications. I worked for Condé Nast for 9 years. I was a fashion director for 3 different Vogues, Vogue Australia, Vogue Japan, Vogue China. Then I moved to the UK. I became the fashion director for UK Harper's Bazaar. Then I moved to Net-a-Porter and I joined my colleague Lucy Yeomans and we launched Porter magazine. And then I was there at Net-a-Porter for 5.5 years as the editorial fashion director, and that was brilliant. And then I moved in-house to a brand called Jimmy Choo. And
none of us know that brand either. All of these, very unknown publications and... I love how you're like, that small little shoe brand.
And then I was the SVP of comms, marketing and brand for them. So really just taking care of the brand image across all the touch points from the advertising campaign to all the content to the Instagram too. So, what I do now is really work with brands and help build their brand equity, via content, visual identity, storytelling, because I think today, fashion's changed so much that the way a brand tells their story is no longer just through like a simple print advertising campaign or, a fashion show or, so there's so many different ways for a brand to tell their story and a lot of it is via content. So my background in content has really helped me go into the sort of branding space. So yeah, it's been good.
So actually, that's I think one of the things that I've taken from COVID is the fact that I think what you said, the whole image and the branding has to not necessarily change, but like highlight different things, So in the midst of all of this, we were all on a crusade to get rid of plastic and decrease packaging. And now we've gone back to single-use face masks and, using skin like wipes and, all of these things that maybe 6 months ago we would have been like, oh my God, we're trying to get that out of our lives right now. and also about like a clear conscience about where you're sourcing your products from, where you're, you know, what kind of environment you're making your clothes from, our creams. You know, a lot of people ask us, you know, are you cruelty free? Are you, you know, are you recyclable? You know, is it made from recyclable material? And I think that, you know, which is great. I think like the consumer is really becoming a lot more educated on not just what their products do, but what they stand for. And so do you think that that's like playing a bigger role in fashion, particularly, like with, you know?
100%, 100%, especially in the luxury space, because luxury brands are going to be held even more accountable than any other sort of, at any other, whatever fashion at any other level. Like, you know, fast fashion, we all know how destructive that is for the planet. We all know that they're like major perpetrators for, you know, pollution and waste and landfill. But we kind of think luxury fashion is a little bit above that, and it should be, you know, considering how much you pay for a luxury brand. So I think this idea of, you know, sustainability, luxury brands are going to be more accountable. Meaningful luxury, I think, is sort of, and slow luxury are terms that I think you'll see a lot more in the future, where we really look at how things are made, the craft, the, you know, the people that make it, is the leather, you know, where is it sourced, what kind of tanneries are they using, is all the packaging recyclable, you know, what kind of excess stock, what are they doing with all their excess stock? So all these factors are really going to be, I think, for a consumer, so key when choosing where to put your money. I mean, certainly for me it is, you know, and I think, you know, brands are doing it really well, like Stella McCartney, always been an advocate for sustainability.
She was an early founder of all of this, actually. I mean, like, she's really plowed through.
Job, and she, you know, and she still is, and now she's been bought by LVMH, and obviously that's going to have an effect on their brands, which is a really positive thing just for the industry in general. Other brands like Gabriele Hackworthy, I know it's very much about, you know, artisanal fabrics and where it's sourced from and how it's made, and, you know, it's not about fast fashion. And I think, you know, one of the trends that we will see coming out is this idea that, you know, it's fast fashion isn't cool. It's not, you know, and, you know, I tell that even to my daughter who's, you know, 13 and constantly online, and I'm like,
trying to find, but, you know, I think that's also part of growing up. My mom used to always say, you know, buy less, but buy well, you know, so I've tried to do that. I mean, obviously we all like newness. That's also the thing that I think is really hard, but that's where I think accessories come in really well. So like, you know, you change your earrings, you put, sorry, I had like a very professional thing going on earlier, so I have like my pearls in, but like you change your earrings, you change your makeup, you change your shoes and bag, and actually your whole outfit changes, like just with some accessories. So I think that's actually really important. And I've also found, you know, I bought some nice pieces of clothing, and then I realized, well, I have nowhere to wear them. I can't like waltz around in my house, like, and even if it's like, you know, day clothing, but it's not really, you know, at home clothing. But I find that really interesting, and I find it very, the one thing on the other side is that I also find as a brand owner, so MZ Skin, that's something that has been really with me for a long time. So, you know, when I was first launching, one of my first retailers that I launched with, they said, you know what, you really need to have bigger packaging because it makes more of a stand in, you know, when people are walking by your products on a shelf somewhere. And I said, I understand that, but one, it costs more money to do that, which I have to pass on somewhere. And two, I mean, I don't know anybody who keeps their boxes for anything. I mean, unless you have like a beautiful, I don't know, some people collect like their, you know, Hermes or their Louis Vuitton, you know, different boxes that they then use as storage. But for most people, all of that stuff, that plastic, that inner wrap, that, you know, all of that stuff, it might look big, and then all of a sudden you have this tiny little cream inside, and you're like, well, what was all of that? And I just think how much Amazon comes to my house, and I have like tons of stuff. So that was always part of my ethos, that everything has to be recycled or recyclable to the best of our ability. I'm looking into myself just for our skincare line is to see how we can have a refillable model without it being, also, you know, obviously when you're refilling, there's also another component, you know, you're going to get your creams in something, you know, you can put it back into a jar, but it's going to come to something else. So it's always like, is it better then to just get another jar that, you know, is glass and you can recycle, or is it better to get the plastic that you have to then also separate out and depending on where it goes, it may or may not be able to. So it's like I'm trying to cater, but at the same time, it's really hard as a brand owner to find a mix that makes sense in the long term, but also just makes sense in the community. So I find that that's a very hard place for me as a brand owner. So I hope that goes forward, but again, like it's really hard with creams and lotions and serums, especially when you're having that luxury component to it. So
well, I guess
shoes,
looking at recyclable plastic, or plastic that's come from source from the ocean, or I mean, there are different ways of dealing with that. But yeah, I think this idea of not like consuming what's really necessary and then making that a really meaningful purchase. So whether that's like buying one really good face cream rather than 10
mediocre ones. Yeah,
I think for me, I've always done that less is more. And and also going forward, I think this idea of the rental market for fashion is just going to get even better. Like you said, I've bought all these clothes, but where do I wear them? And it's I think we all have that. We've all got those dresses that we paid thousands of dollars for. Not all, sorry. But we have,
whatever splurge you're doing for yourself. I mean,
and you think, oh, it's my special dress. I only wear it for special occasions.
But we should be wearing them all the time. Every day is a special gift.
I agree.
I think that we should. But what do you think about that in the world of Instagram and social media? So I also think that a lot of people buy things so that they can create content for social media. Yesterday I went for my evening walk around, I went on Sloane Street, which is so eerie because there's nothing in any of the stores. There's no inventory, and I walked by Harrods, and there were a few girls that were changing in the middle of the street at 10 o'clock at night, and they had their cameras and they were taking pictures, and I was thinking they were changing outfits, and I was like, there is a part of that too with social media that's like, oh my God, I already wore that, so I really can't be photographed in that again. Do you think that it'll be the cool thing to do to recycle? Do you like this look like this with this article of clothing? Or I find that's also our Instagram is this insatiable machine that's new, more, and so how are we going to get that under control?
So I think I'm not such a huge fan of Instagram per se. I like it for different reasons. I like it for a sense of discovery of new brands, and I like it because brands are able, it's like a free way to communicate the brand. For young brands, they don't need magazines to tell the world about them. They don't need a big runway show. So for me, I love that element of discovery of Instagram. But there is that narcissistic side of Instagram that I find a little bit off, to be honest. And even girls now, we're in a pandemic, and they're oh, what am I going to wear today? And I guess there's an audience for all that sort of content.
Yes.
Everyone has their own audience. But in terms of fashion, I think the influencers for me that are really relevant are the ones that have another layer to them, and that are more than just their outfits. That they have something to say, or they're entrepreneurs, or they're like you, and they're a business owner, and they're doing something else other than just getting dressed and taking pictures of themselves. I find that super vacuous and not very particularly stylish, to be honest. So and I think moving forward, this idea of showing off, I think there'll be
it's going to be more subdued.
Yeah, because I don't think coming out of this anyone's going to be wanting to flaunt the fact that they're covered in a Gucci logo or whatever. I think it's off, and I think this idea of discreet luxury, discreet logos, this sort of stealth wealth mentality is going to feel much
stealth wealth. I like that.
It's going to feel much more modern, and fashion always reacts to what came before, and it also is a reaction to what the political, social, economic environment is. So in the 90s, that 90s grunge, minimal grunge era, that was a reaction to the 80s excess, and I think we might see another reaction to, we've been in quite a maximalist kind of period in fashion. So I think coming out of, COVID, we might go back to a much more subdued,
like that Calvin Klein, I love that, like that very chic Calvin Klein monotone, monochrome look with very clean lines. I mean, I always think of that because I think of Kate Moss in her little undies and all like the supermodels. But I that's interesting. I wonder, because sometimes I think the minimalism will come out, but then at the same time I think like, oh my God, we haven't been able to use any of our fabulous prints and fabrics and outfits. So like maybe it's actually going to go the other way, and people are going to be it has been very over the top though. So I don't know how much over the top more it could go.
I mean, look, I don't like trends either. I believe in personal style. I think, the most stylish women I know are the ones that it's not about like being a slave to fashion. It's a bit about knowing who they are and knowing what suits them and really sticking to that and having a point of view regardless of what's going on in fashion. So I think I think style is always permanent, and trends come and go. So
yeah, this is true. Well, I love your style. You always look fabulous. Even when you're doing your TikTok videos with towels on your head with your daughter, who's so big. I can't believe you have a daughter that big.
No.
And then what do you say for people who have like a brand of their own? Because content creation and getting, I think social media is great because it gives you that foot in a door that people might not ever have seen. Yes. But I always find that the hard part is like acquiring that view, like how is somebody going to find you? Like the art of intelligently branding is really difficult. I see so many really beautiful brands. I love Instagram for like the random stuff that I find that I can't find in mainstream everyday life, and I like that. So, but sometimes it just comes up because I think my phone is listening to me all the time. But other times I wonder how did I get into this feed, which I'm very happy to have been a part of. But I have so many different things. I mean, I love the monochrome, as I said. Like I love that black, sleek, fitted, elegant look. But then I also love the fun, bright, rainbow colored, things that make me happy when I look at them. And so, and then I love table setting. So I'm constantly being bombarded with tablescapes, which has been really fun to do.
I think influencers, that's where influencers can be very helpful to young designers, because if you have a young brand and you just need to get brand awareness, then, if you just find a few influencers who, naturally have the same sort of aesthetic as your brand, and, by gifting them, and if they like it, they'll wear it, because they need content the whole time as well. So I think, and just reaching out to influencers that you love, that idea of co-creation and content creation. I find often when influencers who do really great content, and you find those girls, and they're not always the ones that have hundreds of thousands of followers. Like I follow some girls that have, 20,000 followers, but they do really nice content. So if you're a smaller brand, maybe target those sort of more micro influencers.
Accessible.
Get them
the micro influencers.
Content for you that you can then use on your channel, and it's less expensive than going to one of the kind of 1 million plus girls and asking her to do a post, and
But they also they're constantly making content, so it's almost like you see their content for like a minute, and then the next thing is up. So as you said, it's like so rapid, the fashion. It's like every 3 seconds they're changing an outfit. Sometimes in one day you'll see like 6 posts and they have 6 different designers on, and so it's like it's very hard to. I mean, we don't. I don't believe in paid advertising. I think word of mouth is always the best. It's sort of the way that I've thought always for my practice and also my ethos.
Mm-hmm.
Disconnected from you. People keep calling me. I should actually figure out that I should probably put it on airplane mode. But I think the micro influencers are really interesting too. But then again, like it's always more. And I do hope that sort of changes a bit because there's only I don't know. I think the attention span is, I feel like education for skincare is really important. And I think now education for fashion is also becoming really important. Like you said, what are these big houses doing? Like, so what are the LVMHs? I mean, I heard that they took Stella on so that they could also incorporate her ethos and ideology across their other brands so that she can help, spearhead that project. But I mean, they're a huge brand, but they're not, there's so many others around them too.
What are the other sustainable brands, do you mean, or what do you think?
Yeah, like what? Yeah, who are the people who are like really pioneering this in fashion?
I mean, oh God, who else is out there that's really good? God, I should have done my research on that a little bit more. There's another brand. I'm so sorry, I've lost the name off the top of my head, but this again is a problem.
But it's not very common. If you have to,
can't even like.
Yeah, if you have to think about it, there's just not that many of them out there, which is kind of crazy.
Not in the luxury.
And then, what do you think about the brands who used to burn their products instead of give them at a discount? Like, is there going to be a backlash against them? I mean, I feel like they could do anything and people are still going to buy. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all a sort of personal choice, isn't it? But I think just generally we're coming into this era of consciousness. Like, I think COVID has really shown everyone how important it is that we look after the planet, because, this is much an environmental disaster as it is a biological kind of pandemic. So, we're all connected. Everything that I do can affect what happens to you, what happens to, people across the planet. So this idea that we're all responsible for the planet, I think, has really hit home, or hopefully will really hit home during this time. And if it's one positive thing to come out of it, it will be that. And it will be that everyone will be just much more aware and accountable and think twice. And even like we can already tell that no one's really shopping at this point, and we're okay. We've survived. Like, if we don't go buy something new every week, nothing's going to change. The world's going to keep spinning, So I think that, a lot of people have had, this sort of artifice stripped away from them, and we've all realised well, hopefully we will have all realised what's really important in life, and, shopping isn't necessarily it. And I love fashion as a form of expression. And, I think it's really empowering. One of the reasons I got into fashion was it was so inspiring for me. And
it makes you happy too.
Yeah. And as a creative outlet, and, if I'm feeling down, I'll put on something that makes me look good and I feel good. And, if I have to go into a meeting with, suits, then I'll suit up and then I feel much more powerful. So I love that transformative power of fashion. But I think at the same time, it is really damaging. So we really need to think about our purchases more, cleverly in the future, and really think, do I really need this? Is this really what is this doing to the planet? Is this going to really make my life that much better? How long can I use this for? Can I pass it down? That's why I love, like Rent the Runway and things like that, because it's a great way of like getting that newness into your wardrobe, as you've talked about, but without having to buy more stuff, and I think you'll see that rental market really explode coming out in the next couple of years, and, as well as comfort dressing, I think. Well,
everybody's really, if they're buying anything, they're buying their sweatpants and their sweatshirts and making that a form of expression. I love the fact that you said your clothes are transformative for you. So I always feel that with skincare too.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you're having a good skin day, then you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better about myself. And you're just that more confident without having to do very much, so I think that's also something that makes people feel good that they can do and continue to do for themselves on their own. Someone asked here, how do brands, it says, one question about British brands, how could we get more visibility? I feel like British brands are in a hard place right now too, just with Brexit and then, COVID. And I heard recently, I'm not sure if it's accurate or not, but I heard that perhaps, anything being produced in China or like for any reason might have stricter regulations in the future, just because for, contamination reasons, even on clothing and the plastic that it's covered in and things like that. And so that's, very cost changing for small brands, no matter, what you're doing, whether it's in fashion or beauty. So how do these brands get more visibility?
I mean, I think the UK, thinking about like marketing it at home is sort of quite, we're still a massive country. There's still a massive market, and we still have people. There's a lot of money in this country still, and there's a lot of people that love buying fashion. So I wouldn't dismiss the local market and just sort of look at ways of engaging there. And it's there's so many platforms now that you can get brand awareness, like whether it's Instagram, Pinterest,
I love Pinterest.
Facebook, YouTube. You really, unfortunately now, in terms of marketing your brand, you kind of need to be on every single channel at some point. And I think brands can tell their own stories across all those channels, and you can tell them slightly differently on different ways. Like on YouTube, obviously it's long form content, so maybe that's where you want to talk about your design process, or go to the factories, or talk about any sort of craftsmanship that goes into the product, or any sort of sustainable elements that you're working within the brand. So I just think communicating about your brand in different ways across different platforms, because if you go across all those platforms, that's a massive audience, so.
Do you think that stores are still going to be around? Is retail dead? Are these like huge, amazing fashion shows? Are they going to go down? Or are we just going to be streaming content on different platforms now? Like they started to do for, the shows right before COVID happened, basically?
I think shows will take on a different form 100%, because you're not going to be able to have events with 2,000 people in one tent. Like, that's just not going to happen. And I think the kind of virtual show is still needs a lot of work to get to that same level of impact that a live performance would have on the audience. But I think what happened with fashion weeks and fashion shows, it just got out of control. Like,
serious. I feel like every month there was something. Somewhere in the world there was something fashion week related.
Yeah, and it sort of lost a bit of its impact, because when I first started in fashion, like 100 years ago, when we still used Fasimile machines.
Well, you look like you're 12, so you look like your daughter's friend as opposed to her mother.
So, like, when I first started going to the shows in the 90s, it was a very intimate place where really only the people that had to be there were there. So, like, you were like a buyer or you were a journalist. And certainly it was really for the people that were, impacting that designer's sales in a very sort of business way. And then it just became this circus, and I don't know. Maybe there's a way, because, buyers and editorial teams, they have a different need to what influencers do. So maybe they'll do something where, again, go back to the core part of your business, which is, selling the collection. You'll have a presentation, a small presentation for those people. And then later, once the collection is available and in the stores, then maybe you'll have a party and invite all the influencers, or do something like that. But I don't think we're going to continue to see these like shows. No.
Well, one brand like online platform that I've always really liked is Moda Operandi. So for those of you that don't know, Moda is like this fashion website essentially, but they do a lot of trunk shows, and so I find it fun to go to fashion shows, but I rarely have any time to do that. If I can, I'll pop into a couple here or there in the UK, but I've never tried. I have traveled before, but now I definitely can't do it. Yeah. And I just think that was always really fun, because they bring a little bit of the show onto their website, and then it's so beautifully curated. I don't know, they have the most beautiful people wearing every outfit, and then you pre-order it, however, just as the buyers would, and then a few months later, all of a sudden a package comes and you're like, oh my God, I forgot I got this, and then like you get all excited all over again. And I think that's really nice, because sometimes I feel like I do that and then I don't actually feel the need to ever go shopping, because every once in a while like a package shows up at my door, and if I don't like it, I return it, and if I do like it, then I keep it. But I like that concept of it, because that kind of for somebody who likes to look at it and maybe, see what's going to be out there and say, like it cures also that desire to want to buy something all the time. If you're buying for the future, then you're still buying, so you're not buying more for now, essentially. So it's kind of nice, and then you also think about it because you have to pay in advance, and so you're not going to buy everything because you have to wait until you get it, until you return it. So I feel like consciously that's a very good way of people sort of buying things for the future, and it also gives the people who are creating it, all the designers, the ability to make enough stock for those types of sales. So what happens historically with all these products, like, that get sold and then, from a brand, and then they go into a secondary store and then they just get deeply discounted until they're gone, or they get thrown away, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for every brand because everyone has a different policy, but, for brands I've worked with in the past, it just went to it ended up in an outlet and then eventually just hopefully just get rid of it. Eventually someone will
at any cost. Goodbye.
But I think that it also comes back to brands being more accountable and not creating so much stuff. Like, why do we need so much stuff? Do we really need so many SKUs? Do we really need so much inventory? So maybe in the future brands will be a bit more mindful of that as well.
And then how do they market that without being super arrogant? Because sometimes that can come across like, oh, we're doing this and everybody else should be following us, but, we're ahead of the game. Well,
I mean, like when you're talking about like very, very high-end luxury, let's talk about Hermes. They don't ever go on sale. They've got no excess stock, For me, that's a very sustainable business model because...
But do they have no stock, or they just, well, they're very classic too, so that you can find some of their things year and year and year again. Yeah. And they've somehow created that like micro universe around their brand, so people always feel like they want to have anything that they'll have. They'll take last season's shirt, but again, it's a very classic brand, Hermes, and it's a very specific sort of look. Yeah, not everybody can pull that off, but yeah, that's true. So they don't have excesses, they don't get rid of anything.
No, I mean, it never goes on sale. So yeah.
But see, you never hear them talking about it. That's really a great point for Hermes. You only hear about the waiting list, but you don't hear the good. That's actually a beautiful. I didn't know that. That's lovely.
Yeah. I don't think Vuitton goes on sale either, though. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't know, but I feel like they have a line around their store at any given city around the world. So I feel like whatever they produce somehow gets sold to somebody somewhere. Again, but I find a little bit like, how you were saying stealth wealth or whatever. I love that little terminology, but they're not at all like that. They're very, that's for the person who really wants everybody to know what they're wearing, and or like that design, I guess, very much. But again, that status that comes with carrying something like that, I guess, is really what drives people to want certain things over other things.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to be able to say, this is my MZ Skin glow. So I wish I could brand that. So you're walking around and like you go into different light, and all of a sudden a halo comes, MZ Skin. That would be really cool.
Well, I think that would look really good, won't they? I mean, that's why I say word of mouth is like, I guess your clients, if they are anywhere and someone comes up to them and says, oh my God, your skin looks amazing, and they say, well, it's MZ Skin.
Yeah, no, of course, word of mouth is great. But it would be nice if I could have like that hologram on my face or on the forehead, or, like a little tattoo along the jawline. Something crazy like that. What do you think is the first thing you're going to want to do after lockdown in terms of like, I feel also being a little bit more creative, having this little bit of time to yourself and doing a little bit self-reflection. For me, I personally, I love what I do, so I love going and seeing my patients. I love everything about MZ Skin. I love the podcast that I do with Fee. I love my family and my friends. There's so many things I love, and I felt like towards the beginning of this, I was like, I really needed a holiday. And because I'm a yes person. If someone asks me things, I'm always very accommodating. I like that. That's part of my being. but I kind of hope I don't go down the same rabbit hole, and I wonder, how hard that's going to be to sustain, so I hope I don't get caught up in all of those things. Like, obviously we're not going to be super social, so that takes one aspect out of it. I'm not going to be running to buy like a million things, but also I want to be able to just it's been nice to be able to sit at home. I mean, it's very rare that I take a holiday and stay in London, just I have family in the state. We go do a lot of different things. And so being in my house here has been really nesting and nurturing for me, and I feel like, gosh, it's kind of really nice to do that. Do you think that there's anything we can do, like, fashion wise or non, just to sort of remember this moment? Because I think our memories are so, I always tell patients, like, sometimes people come in and they have something done and then they see something else and they're like, but that wasn't there. I was like, actually it was, but because now you forgot what you looked like before, and you forget in like an instant. And I hope that doesn't leave our memory as quickly, like this consciousness. I really do think it's important for us to maintain.
Yeah, I think we've all learned a massive lesson. It's like the universe has, basically sent us to our rooms for being really naughty. So that's like, go onto the naughty step and sit there for a while and have to think about what you've been doing. So yeah, I don't think anyone's going to come out of this and not be a changed person. I think you'd have to be so kind of, I don't know, unconscious to come out of this and not think about your life differently, or think about how you've been living it, or think about what your priorities are. I think when I get out of here, the first thing I'm going to do is go and give my friends a big hug and say hi, because, I've realized how important my friends are, my community is, and, being distanced from them has been, for me, one of the hardest things. And then, work as well, I appreciate work. I was like, oh, I'm so tired of work, I just want a holiday. And now I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go back to work now. So, I'm dying to go. I heard in the U.S. that they've just opened up a bunch of things on May 1st, and so I'm hoping on Sunday Boris gives us a little bit of an insight too. I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, I think I had COVID, so I feel like I'm lucky. I had a very mild version. I didn't even know I had it. It was only through testing that I realized. But I think that in a way, I feel like I'm blessed. And so anybody who I talk to or see or communicate with, and they're, not going to get anything from me, and they can't give anything to me right now because I still have some immunity. But I wonder how things will go back, because I don't think office situations will go back. And I even think of all these beautiful shoots that happen to create all this content, like how is that going to happen? I mean, one shoot, I remember my like super exciting day when I walked into Net-a-Porter, to pitch MZ Skin, and I went in, and it was just so amazing. Everybody was so cool, dressed in black, young, the energy. You could just feel the energy when you walked in there. Yeah. And they had this one studio where they had all this photography going on, and you had the big bright lights flashing, and you had everything was so beautiful. It looked like it was a curated scene out of a movie. I mean, that's how perfect it looked. Yeah. But there are a lot of people, to make all of these things happen. It takes an army of people to get things like that out. So I always wonder, even ourselves, like with our content production, I mean, now we've had to really go down and use like the bare minimum, because, social distancing and trying to maintain the guidelines. But I feel like that's going to also change the industry too. You can't have these like crazy beautiful, I appreciate the photography that it goes with branding. So, whatever it is, whether it's, a leather jacket or a pair of shoes or a car, I mean, the putting it all together is always really beautiful. So I wonder, how is that going to be impacted with COVID? I mean, how are we going to go back to creating that kind of content? Are we going to rely more on these sort of collaborations with other people creating it for us, or? Yeah, I think, look, there's a lot of excess that happens on fashion shoots anyway. Ultimately you need a model and a photographer, and that's basic.
And a good set. And a makeup artist.
And to well, yeah, I mean, makeup, with digital, post-production.
Oh, I know. I actually did a laser like a month ago, and so I have my face is really shiny, but that's because I have like this ring around, and so but I did that on purpose so that you don't see all the little bits of pigmentation on my face, and that's a trick I just learned like a week ago. I'm so proud of myself to learn this new trick, but I also feel like it's a little defying, but I will go back as soon as my skin is a little less.
Yeah, I think, look, you can take, some of the greatest pictures that have really been like etched into my memory have been taken with no flash, no light, just a photographer and a model. So I don't think an image needs so much production value and so many people and so much set design and so much, excess to have an impact. And I think people will go back to a much more simple way of storytelling. You'll probably see a lot more photographers who have girlfriends doing a lot more shoots, because I know that's happening right now. Any photographer that's got a model girlfriend and a studio, I mean, he's shooting basically everything right now because designers just sending them clothes and they're doing it themselves. You'll probably get a lot more, makeup artists giving models direction via FaceTime, and back in the 80s, models were doing their own hair and makeup anyway. A lot of the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't like when models for the shows. Like if you have a look at old documentaries with like Linda and Naomi, they're all doing their own makeup backstage.
Wow.
So
be multi-talented. Those supermodels, those glam girls, they could do it all. They still can do it all, and they still look fabulous. Every single one of them.
Models might need to start learning how to do their own makeup again, because that's how it was from the 50s. Everyone was doing all the models were doing their own hair and makeup. And so, maybe we'll go back to that. Who knows?
And what do you think in terms of branding? Like, what do you think is the most important thing for people to be able to, see when they see, when they're trying to get their message across? Like, what do you think is an important thing that needs to be in every sort of communication, whether it's a photograph or it's a bunch of words put together? What is that sort of core thing that you say, this is a pillar you have to have every single time?
I think, authenticity, and really you have to get very clear on what your brand values are. So, say my brand values were discreet luxury. So then everything I do would have to make sure it would fit into that sort of paradigm. So, do you know what I mean? Like, it's about being really consistent with your messaging. So whatever it is, say you're about, you're about, 80s, electro, punk meets, steampunk or something. But then everything you do has to be on that same brand message. So I think, having a very clear brand mission or brand identity, and then being consistent and authentic. That's it. That you just do that and you keep following, and don't go off on another train, and don't go off on another, just stay.
Don't get influenced by everything else that's happening around you.
Stay in your lane.
Stay focused.
And that's when people really understand who you are and what you stand for, and then you have consistency, and then they understand they can come back to you, and they know what they're going to get when they come back to you.
What's been your favorite job so far?
I think working at Net-a-Porter was really amazing, because it was a time when Natalie Massenet was still there, and it was like anything was possible. And we launched Porter, which was like a completely new kind of publishing model. It was digital, but it was in print, and we were just breaking all the rules. And I think working with people and Lucy, Yeoman's my ex-boss as well, was very visionary. So I think for me, whenever you're working with a visionary person, you're always going to have a great time, because as a creative person, like when you think of something really big and you can make it happen, it's so satisfying.
So exciting.
Yeah, so that was
fun. Any fun things that have come out recently fashion-wise that we should look into? Or Lucy launched her, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of her. How is that? What does that do?
I haven't played it.
You haven't.
I've looked into it. I think it's sort of like a dressing game and a kind of very visual
way to work with fashion.
Yeah,
I was thinking about it kind of for like skincare. I mean, yeah, I wish there was a way to be able to say like, this is your skin. Fast forward 6 weeks, this is your skin on, you know, such and such creams. Or I do find it fun when I go through the airport, and I think it is Chanel. Like, you can go put, like, you stand in front of a mirror and it puts on red lipstick or orange lipstick, and sometimes I look really transy, but not what I want to look like. But then I know I can't buy that color of red lipstick. But I think that's actually something that's interesting too. Do you think we're going to, moving forward in fashion, we're going to be able to stand there and then the outfit's going to literally like fit on top of us?
Yeah, as more VR technology and AI technology comes into play, I think absolutely. I think soon we'll all be shopping by taking a picture of ourselves and then tapping on the top and the skirt and then seeing what it looks like on. I mean, it has to go that way. There's no other way for it to go at this point. So
that's so cool.
Retail is struggling right now because of the experience. It's like, you know, you want to go, I mean, the stores that I love going to are the ones that, you know, it's a great experience to be there, and it's not just clothes, and the sales assistants are really well informed and they're actually helpful and they know what they're talking about, and, you know, it's a great environment and it doesn't look like a, you know, mess. And so I think retail will need to work a lot harder, and also it's about that curation, because at the moment, like, you can buy everything everywhere. So it's about how, you know, designers work with their retailers as well. So it's like,
which are the retailers that you'd like to go into for that experience?
I mean, I think Selfridges do a really good job, and I think
they mix it up a lot.
Yeah, and I think Harrods, now that they've renovated the store, it's like amazing. You know, you go in there, and I love the food hall, and I think they've done an amazing job. And then, you know, internationally, it's places like Corso Como, Milan, and Dover Street Market. I mean, for me in London, Dover Street Market is probably the best retail experience to go.
But they're all moving and going to different places. I mean, I think it's all really hard for them. I used to really like going just around the corner to my neighborhood Bluebird. Yeah. And, you know, it's moved, it's still around, but it's not convenient to go there. But I find that I almost feel bad for a lot of those places, because they're amazing. They're so eclectic, and they don't have a whole range. They have a few pieces, you know, it's that buyer who has a great eye, I guess, who makes it happen. I love Dover Street Market, but now I go online. I've never been to the one on the West Coast, but apparently that's really amazing too. Yeah. And in London, Selfridges and Harrods are your favorites?
In terms of department stores, yeah. I think, and then, you know, in terms of other stores, I mean, God, I went into Stella McCartney's store recently, and that's a really amazing looking store. But again, I think those stores that really offer something else to the customer, whether it's the Alexander McQueen store is incredible on Bond Street. Yeah. You go upstairs and you can see all, you know, Sarah Burton's inspirations and the toiles, and it's like an exhibition of all her sort of more couture pieces. And then that's a great way of storytelling as well, because it's like, you know, McQueen. It's not another store that you're just walking into. Oh. I love this store called Koi Bird, who she also is a woman buyer. It's her store. It's on Marylebone, I think Lane or something like that, and it's super fun and funky, and it's colorful, and it's got little designers. It has mainstream designers, but it also has like a very curated, authentic, you know, beautiful handmade summer baskets, you know, for or little slippers, and it's very beautiful with art. It's basically a fusion between art and fashion. But I find myself, I'm also one of those people, sadly, now I do a lot of my shopping online and in the middle of the night. Yeah. What is your favorite go-to sort of like thing that you do for yourself in terms of that makes you feel better? Is it like if you're feeling like you want to look your best, is it, you know, do you take a long bath? Do you do like a nice facial? Do you go to the gym and run 5 miles? I mean, what is your thing that makes you happy? I think beauty is from the inside out, and for me it's meditation and yoga and boxing. Boxing? Yeah. You do not look like a boxer. I'm such a good boxer. No, because I went through this like horrible breakup at one time, and I remember like speaking to this like my relationship coach, and I was like, I've got all this anger, like I just, and I looked angry, like I was like angry. Anyway, he said, well, you need to channel all that energy out of your system. I said, how am I going to do that? He goes, go boxing. And honestly, it was the best. And now for me, it's like the biggest form of release, because, you've got all this energy. And it's not, maybe not just because of the relationship. You could be having a hard time at work, with your kids, with your partner, with whatever, life. And it's just a way of really expressing it in a kind of safe but very energetic way. So I think for me, when I feel like I'm rested and at peace, is when my face looks the best. Like when I'm stressed, like my face.
Everybody is like that. No, of course. That's why it's called resting bitch face. Excuse me. I mean, like it's a thing. It's not made up. So, where do you box? Do you go to a class, or
the gym across the room? I have an instructor, and we just get on the pads, and
Well, it's a great whole body workout. I mean, arms, shoulders, upper body, your core. You have to have a really strong core. People forget that with boxing.
So boxing, and I think, and the meditation for me is like, it's like 10 minutes a day, and it just sort of centers you and just helps you deal with what's going on around you without reacting. I think for me, it's like learning how to not react to situations, and how to just, breathe through it and take it, and take everything.
And did someone help you with that originally, or did you sort of start that? I just started meditating, but like not very often, but I always have to have somebody sort of walking me through it. I don't think I could sit there, and I think I would like start to think about too many other things, and then I would actually probably get overwhelmed as opposed to feeling more serene.
Yeah, so a friend recommended an app to me called Waking Up, and it's brilliant. So it's a guided everyday meditation, and you just listen to it whenever you can, and it's 10 minutes every day, and you have someone leading you through the meditation. It doesn't talk the whole way through. It maybe talks at the beginning and then talks at the end. But it's just a really easy way to do it. And you do it on your mobile, and you do it whenever. So whenever I've got 10 minutes in the day, it could be even now after we do this call, I'll be like, I've got 10 minutes before, I have to get my daughter ready or whatever. I'll go and just sit in a room for 10 minutes and do that. And that's very centering, and it's like the best form of de-stressing your mind, really.
That's amazing. I'm going to start doing that. What was the app called again?
It's called Waking Up.
Waking Up. I tried Calm, but I must be retarded, because I'm the only person I think who, I started for my son. He was taking the 11 plus or 13 plus exams, and I started doing that on the way to the exams so that he could think about something else, because he started fidgeting, and he had nervous energy, and so but I could only do the same one over and over again, and at the end he was like, Mom, I think I memorized this one. I was like, I don't know how to graduate on to the next one, but Waking Up, I'm going to try that.
It's really good. Everyone I've recommended to loves it, and it's and also the guy who started it, he then also in the app there's all these different lectures, and there's lots of it, so there's lots of sort of wisdom teaching as well along the way, and so as you can learn as much or as little as you want about meditation, but it's all the information's there for you, and you can just tap in and out of it as you please.
And then you have had so much experience in so many places that I think have probably been all uber competitive. Is there any one piece of advice you've ever been told that you're like, God, that's the best advice I ever got? Or that it resonates over and over again in different situations where you're like, that still holds true even, 5-10 years later?
I mean, honestly, my only piece of advice to anyone who wants to be successful is passion, resilience, and hard work. Without those three, with those three, I do believe
anything is possible.
Anything, passion, resilience, and hard work. And it's if you get a knockback, then get back up and do it again. And, it's, and the hard work, I don't think no one is successful without making a certain amount of sacrifice, whether that's time or whatever that sacrifice is. But it's just not possible to have everything without a certain amount of sacrifice. And that, if you're passionate about what you're doing, then it doesn't feel like so much of a sacrifice. Do you know what I mean? Like the time that you're putting into it, or the time away from your family, or whatever it is, you know, it feels like it's you're getting so much out of it that it's worth it. So
that's so true. I love that. I really do love that. And how do you see yourself in consultancy in like this new era of, you know, like what is the thing that you think is really important for all brands sort of to carry on with them? Like, you know, I think this consciousness is actually really important, but how do you do that well in sort of like relaying that as part of your ethos, you know, so it's in there underlying, you know, because obviously you don't want to, it's not the number one reason, but it is a very high up reason. So how do you get people to educate their consumers like that in like the split second that it takes them to look at an ad or, you know, a visual or, you know, within their branding context?
Again, I think it comes back to your brand mission. Like, you know, for example, when I was at Jimmy Choo, our brand mission was dare to stand out. And what that meant was like dare to be outstanding. So, you know, we'd always feature women in all the content that who we felt were outstanding and what they were doing, and we always like celebrated, you know, the sort of celebrities that were really outstanding in their careers and who were wearing us, and so or people that were really daring in what they were doing. So, you know, connecting with your audience on an emotional level is, I think, the greatest way to really gain loyalty. Like, it's like even when you think about what Gucci's done, you know, what their brand mission was inclusivity at the end of the day. It's not about like, you know, you don't have to be this picture perfect beauty to wear Gucci. You can be like, you know, crooked teeth and skinny and not necessarily classically beautiful, but we're going to like elevate you and make you feel. So, you know, Gucci were like, we're for everyone, you know, anyone can wear us. And I think, and done in a very positive, optimistic way. And that was their mission, and that's why it became so popular. And that wasn't inclusive, because you would go into the store and I'd see, you know, when I'd walk into the store in Milan, I remember there was like Midwestern American tourists in there with like cool, crazy fashion kids. And I'm like, everyone loves Gucci. Like, because Gucci loves everyone. So
that's true. But it also, I have to say, those brands also, like Gucci makes you feel happy. It's like a bunch of different patterns and mixtures all together, and like, you know, you throw it all together and somehow it works.
Yeah, very non-judgmental, super optimistic, anything goes, free-spirited, super expressive. And, you know, I don't wear it. It's not me, because I'm a bit more like discreet, but I love the idea. Oh,
I can totally see you wearing it. I mean, I can totally see you rocking like one of the joggers or like their, you know, all the big prints.
I like a bit of 70s, you know.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I get your vibe. You see, they have something for you too.
Yeah, exactly. No, they would. I'm sure they would. But you know, yeah. But
yeah, you're much more of a classic.
It's like an emotional response, and you know, so. Or if you look at, you know, Saint Laurent, it's like this like sexy arch girl. So like if you want to be sexy and the girl that, you know, everyone's like, ooh, look at her in the red lipstick and the stilettos across the room. And, you know, if you want to be that girl, you're going to walk into a Saint Laurent store. But they're very clear from the outset about what their mission is. It's like, you know, this very cool, edgy, sexy attitude.
So if you had to describe MZ Skin, I'm interested, as a brander, how would you describe us?
I would say it's intelligent beauty.
I like that, intelligent beauty. That is part of our. That is actually one of our pillars.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
I like that. I'm glad that came across. Thank God.
Because that's what you represent. So you know, and I think you know, brand owners, they do represent their brands the best, in the best way. It's like Phoebe Philo, when she was at Celine, she was the epitome of what everyone wanted to be. We all wanted to be like,
yeah, of course.
And she really was the best ambassador for her brand. And I think, you know, that's like a winning combination when you have an ambassador or a designer or, you know, a brand owner who embodies the brand values. It's like,
I think they're one and the same. I mean, it would be weird for me to have a brand that would be different than what I think is nice, you know, myself. So, but thank you so much for spending your Thursday afternoon with us at MZ Skin Official. I hope you have a lovely bank holiday weekend. I'm going to try your app today. Actually, I have so many back-to-back meetings after this. I'm definitely going to try it. I am. I'm going to do that for myself. Thank you again, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.